Hello, Deep. Can you check audio, please?
Yeah, it is audible. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hello? Father, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Good morning,
Good afternoon.
Dr. Hussam.
Yeah,
How are you?
good morning.
Good morning to you. Good afternoon. Alex, good morning.
Hi, Abdul. Good morning. Or is it good afternoon or evening in India?
Yeah, good afternoon here.
Yeah. Okay.
Ali, I think it's a good afternoon. Yeah, for you.
Good afternoon. Yes. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody.
Yeah.
Good morning for me. 9 o'clock I'm in Morocco right now. Yes. Abdulkader, did you distribute this link for connection to people who
Yes.
sent who
Yes,
had the
yes.
invitation or whatever?
Everything is set. Yes. Yes. Yeah. They send it.
For the
Everybody.
I mean for the guests.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Everybody who is registered, they got the invitation.
Okay.
So the program is in live streaming in different channels like YouTube, Facebook. Okay, some people who want to join them, they can join through that house. Okay,
Okay.
I think it's time now. So let's take one more minute to start. I think we should start the program now. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I hope everybody is able to hear me. Okay. So thank you very much for joining the session today. The Global Strategy Talk Show, season version 2. Today we are talking about most important topic: the people, culture, and change in the organization. Usually, this is very much overlooked topic in the transformation sessions, transformation initiatives. So we brought experts to speak on this topic. We'll be happy to listen to you, your challenges, and try to discuss in deep about the nitty-gritties of the people, change, the culture, and the transformation. Before that, I would like to introduce the speakers today, the panelists. Okay, so let me. I think we can start. Let me just quick introduction about us. Myself, Sheikh Abdul Khader, CEO of Data Labs India. So we provide solutions for strategy transformation and also supply chain excellence. So our product, Flow Strategy, is a most comprehensive strategy management tool available in the market at the moment. So we talk more about it at the end of the session. We intend to bring best practices globally and the experts in the domain to the organizations who want to take up strategy transformations. Okay, so that is the intent. We can conduct talk shows, webinars, and then conferences. This is our second talk show, and we had earlier a webinar series, webinar on a different topic related to the strategy, and we had a conference earlier, a very successful conference. Okay, so myself, CEO of Data Labs India, certified graduate in balance scorecard from Palladium in 2011. PMP, ERP certified, and Six Sigma black belt. Okay, so there are some certifications to my credit. I worked extensively in Middle East from 1999 to 2014. And then the rest of the time before 1992, I was with in India in government sector as assistant executive engineer, and then started business in 2016, 2014 basically. Started a consulting company, then Data Labs India, which is IT services company in 2016. So happy to host the event. So thank you very much. I look forward for a very encouraging and enticing discussion today. Over to you, Dr. Hussam. We can start the introduction, please.
Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. My name is Dr. Hussam, Dr. Hussam Amara. Well, my background is actually architecture, so I'm an architect by education. I'm a US graduate, and then with a bachelor degree and master degree in architecture. And I graduated in 1995, and then I had a master degree in 1996 from Texas A&M University, which is the same university as MBA. So I started my life as an MBA graduate when the MBA was not actually a fashion that time. So I worked over 20 or 18 years in architecture as a consultant and as a project manager and whatever, like that's why I'm also a PMP certified. And then I decided to change my career. So I had my degree in doctorate of business administration from Edinburgh Business School. I was specialized in strategic planning and corporate governance. And since then, actually, since 2011, I'm a very active member in the strategy. So I started by getting mentored by Dr. Stephen Haynes in the United States, and so many others. Like the big flags now in the U.S. and the strategy science. And I witnessed actually the establishment of the Association of Strategic Planning certification program in 2010 with my mentor Stephen Haynes. So in 2014, I was certified as strategic management professional, which is the highest certification title in the Association of Strategic Planning, which is called right now the International Association of Strategy Professionals. So since then, I am actually a very active member actually in the international community with with a lot of strategies, and I supervise strategies in the field for over 65 organizations worldwide in almost like 25 countries. So along the way, I had so many other certifications like Balance Scorecard certifications, like Balance Scorecard Professional, Balance Scorecard Master Professional from the Balance Scorecard Institute and George Washington University. And then I joined Haynes Center also for a lot of work, and I'm a certified systems thinking approach specialist. So that's what they call it, certified system thinker in strategy management. And then I got also a side like psychologist, psychology, whatever, to help organization and that. Also change management certifications from many organizations like ProSci, like Qatar, and then finally with the time of change on the tipping point. So I had so many, interactions in the field for a comprehensive way, and then competency management from HRSG company in Canada, which has one of the most advanced competency management profiles and frameworks to manage the HR, human resources by the framework of competency management. I read, write, and speak many languages: English, French, Arabic, German, Spanish. I give lectures all around the world. I attend conferences. I'm part of members of the board for many organizations as well. So this multicolor, culture was all melted down in strategy. So and strategy practice throughout the world. I feel blessed with that, and that's about me actually. So this is, I hope, it gave a little bit of an introduction about myself. Qadir?
Thank you, Dr. Hussain. Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome.
Ali, Engineer Ali, please, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you
Happy to
very
see
much,
you.
Engineer Sheikh. Appreciated, Engineer Sheikh, for having me in this talk show. It is a pleasure, and also I'm very happy to be part of this great panelists. Actually, I'm coming from diverse background. I have more than 20 years of experience in different fields and products and services industries. I have mix of experience in public and private sector as well in different field experience in change management, in production operations, project management, strategic planning, talent management, HR, learning and development, occupational safety and health, policy making, and labor market studies, among other fields. So I have MBA from the University of Exeter in the UK. I am engineering by nature, industrial engineer. I have different certificates, occupational certificates or professional certificates, like change management, a practitioner, project management. I am trainer as well. I am coach. In addition to other professional certificates. Again, it's a pleasure to be part of this panelist, Engineer Sheikh. Thank you very much to you.
Yeah, thank you, Engineer Ali. We work very nicely, and Ali was leading a large change initiative in Arasco. Okay, so happy to see you, Engineer Ali. Thank you very much. Alex, I could not see you. Yeah, Alex, can you hear me?
No, I believe he has just stepped out, so
Okay.
he has to rejoin. I just let him know, so he will be joining. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let Alex join because he's from Nigeria. He was managing director of Grant Cereals, a large organization with over 5,000 employees. And he recently started his own consulting practice, and also he's a professor in Lagos Business School. Okay. So let's wait for him. He's trying to rejoin session. Alex, I can see you here, but I'm not sure whether you can hear us or not. Okay. So he will join. I think we'll just will wait for Alex to join and give introduction. So before that, today's session, we would like to discuss more about what is culture, what is people change management, what is change management, how the competencies affect the strategy execution, and many other things. Okay, so Deep, please make sure Alex is he doesn't have any difficulties in joining.
Yeah, I messaged him, so I'm just waiting for him to join.
Okay, so let's continue because we have the audience. Okay, so I think the first thing what comes to our mind is when we do the initiatives. Okay, so we most likely to forget about the importance or value of a culture and change. Okay, that is something which we never discuss in detail in the beginning. That always the change management, the people part, the culture part, that this topic is almost always, in my experience, is discussed at the end of the everything. Okay, but actually in reality that is not the correct way. That is one of the most important, including everything else. Okay, so we would like to start discussion with a basic question: what is culture, basically? Okay, so Engineer Ali, would you like to start with giving a brief to yourself? What is culture, and what is the importance of culture to start with to engage the discussion? I know Dr.
Sure.
Hussam will have a lot of things, but we'll just come back one by one. Yeah. Mhm.
Sure. Thank you very much. A lot of definitions for culture you're gonna find in literatures. One of the well-known scholars and writer is in general in organizational culture and in culture is the famous writer Gershain. He has a clear definition of culture. He says when you go inside a company or organization and you look into how people think, how people get things done between them, how job get things done, how do you see the structure of the company? All of these gives you some indication about culture. He defines the culture that as a set of beliefs, values, and basic assumptions, whether individual or group of people have. It is shaping their way of thinking. It is shaping their behavior. It is the sign of how they are going to interact together. So culture, it's about what deep thinking you have, what deep assumption you have, what deep values you acquire, and how these values, assumptions, way of thinking, how be reflected on your behavior, how be reflected on your way of communication with people, on getting things done. This is in general, whether you are inside organization or outside organization. It is not only related to organization. It is something you carry on with you in your society, in your home, with your friends, with your colleagues. So it's about way of thinking, way of deep acquiring of assumptions and values and beliefs that drive you to behave in some way. This is in general culture. When you combine it with organization, when you become inside organization, we will have two terminologies, organization and culture, then organizational culture. All of us, we know what we mean by organization. It is entity, consists of people, have some actions or activities they perform in order to achieve objectives of goal, any kind of objectives. So when you talk about organizational culture, it's about the way that things are done in organization, the unwritten rules and that influence the people, the employees, the individuals, the group behavior and attitude. Organizational culture, it is the way of structure, the way of rules and responsibilities are shaped, the way of communication, the way how top management deal with bottom management and the bottom to top. So it's a kind of things you do inside organization to achieve your organization objectives. This is in general what we mean by culture and organizational culture.
Perfect. Alex, are you in the call? You joined back? Can we see you?
Not in the card, issues with elections, yes. So I've just tried to sort it out now.
Okay, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you also. Alex, we just started because we want to just keep going on. The question we asked is, what is a culture? Okay, so what is a culture and what is the importance of the culture in the organization? Just quickly to start to gain the momentum. I think you can introduce yourself and start answering this. Okay.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Guma. I'm currently a managing consultant for Business Max Consulting. My original background was in biochemistry, and I later had a degree in law. But I've worked for quite a number of different organizations in different roles: Procter & Gamble, Diageo, British American Tobacco, UAC Group, Global Consult Telecoms, FMCG, and across parts of Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, Egypt. So what is culture? I think it's the way, for me, in simple terms, is the way things are done. It's the way things happen within an organization. How do you act? How do you make decisions? How does everything happen within the organization on a day-to-day basis? Ideally, there should be some kind of framework, guidelines that cover it, but you also have what is unwritten, because certain behaviors, actions, things that you how to have the way things are done. So that for me, it's a simple definition of culture is the way things are done. It can be driven by the organization, but you always have the impact of that organization operates play a role. So organizations that want to drive a particular culture have to be cognizant of the culture that exists in the external environment and play an active role in trying to ensure that they build a culture that allows them live or achieve the goals that they want to have and attract the kind of people that they want to operate within that organization. So that's my own short definition of what I think culture is.
Perfect, Alex. Thank you very much for joining. Dr. Hussam, over to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, please. What is a culture and how does that affect? Just to set the tone for our discussion today. Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah, as Engineer Ali and Alex said, I just like to summarize. I'd like people to go out always with a summary or a definition that can stick into their minds about things. So I adopt always the definition of culture of my mentor, Dr. Stephen Haynes. He used to say culture simply because people tends to identify culture as, you know, the religion, the beliefs, the norms, the social values, and you cannot find, you know, a way to describe culture because of the so many components that can create culture. But simply, we can define culture as and I want people just to remember this: the way how we do things around here. It's almost like what Alex said. The definition of culture is the way how we do things around here, whether it's organizational culture or societal culture or whatever culture. So when I keep giving this example, when you see someone is opening the window, his car window, and throwing a tissue on the floor, this is culture. And if you ask him why you do this, he says he doesn't say I do this because of anything. No, he says one thing, like everybody is doing this. You see, so they defend their act by the congregation of action by others. So the culture is how we do things around here. So if you find people who are driving their cars without a seat belt, and because this is a culture, then you ask them why you are not doing why are you doing this? They said everybody is doing this. See, so the culture simply can be defined as the way how we do things around here. So whether the cause of this thing is a belief, religion, social value, house value, environmental value, whatever, it all goes down like we have a word called amalgamation. You see, amalgamation in English means the unity of things towards one result. So culture is an amalgamation of so many things that let you behave. At the end, the culture is a behavior that you behave in the way that you are behaving. So culture is the way how we do things around here. No, simple.
Perfect. The culture, the way we do the things, the way we behave, the way we work as a team. Okay, it's many things comes into culture, how we work. It all depends on the type of organization, the geographic location. Of course, the religion play a role in that. And there are many other things, the diversified teams, many other things. I think it's very important topic to discuss because it's almost always ignored topic in the transformations, or it is given a least priority. Now, when we talk about culture, the gentleman, so at what stage, let us say we do have a strategy transformation program, okay, and what stage we discuss about culture in the initiative transformation? Who takes care of this? How does that? Is it a consultant who comes and talk about the culture, or is it the CEO or head of the business who talk about the culture? In general, when you talk about strategy transformations, how does that culture discussion will pop up? Engineer Ali, would you like to start this topic?
Thank you very much. Things should be integrated together from the beginning. Strategy execution, or actually strategic planning or formulating a strategy, is something not related to one group of people or the CEO or the consultant. It is something related to the whole company. It is something related to the whole employees in that organization. Usually there is a step, a beginning step in formulating or building strategic planning, which is the analyzing step, analyzing phase. During the analysis phase, we have to come across different things. One part of it is the culture. How can we measure? How can we understand today our employees' culture, and what type of culture later when we improve planning during the stages of strategic plan, what type of culture we need our employees to have. So the subject of culture is not something we can discuss at a later stage or when there is a problem. It is something must be discussed at the beginning of formulating or developing the strategy of an organization. Why? Because will help all of us to go through the level or stages, would say stages or phases of strategic planning in an appropriate way. Will help us to understand today people capabilities, today people type of resistance, I mean by people employees, will allow us to understand what type of competencies today my employees have, especially when you talk about a huge organization, when you talk about organization has different background of employees, especially if there is a huge change nationwide with different government or public sector entities. So the culture is not something we can discuss at the end. We have to discuss it at the beginning, and we have to measure it as of in the analysis stage, and we have to put plans for how to improve it in order to make our strategy execution go in an appropriate way. It's not for consultant, it is for the leadership of the company has to become aware of its importance so they can embed it in the strategic planning phases and take it into consideration during the improving and implementing the strategy. Please. Engineer Sheikh, we cannot hear you.
Sorry. Dr. Hussam, can you brief us at what stage we need to talk about culture in the strategy transformations? And who should take care of this? Yeah.
Actually, there is no stage for culture. As Peter Drucker said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. So yeah, and that's a famous saying by Peter Drucker, actually, because if you don't take care of culture from before the beginning of the strategy and even during the general operations of the organization, you will always lose the battle towards culture. As culture eats strategy for breakfast. So powerful. The culture is so powerful, more than we can imagine. So it's not actually the question can't be when we can take care of culture and we start managing culture. We have to say how do we integrate strategy in culture? So that is actually the most important question, because culture is so implicit, so deep thing that you cannot actually challenge, because you will lose every challenge against culture. The strategic management, I always like to refer back to the frameworks of the Association of Strategic Planning, because it's the only certified body in the world that certifies strategy managers and strategy professionals, like PMP for projects, for example, PMI for projects. So the strategy management has 3 premises, okay? And these 3 premises are for the following. Number 1, leaders are the one responsible for planning and change. Leaders are the ones, so this going back to your question before, who's responsible for culture? Because I did not hear about that. They're responsible for culture change, for strategic management, for strategic planning, for initiating these processes of strategic management is the head of the organization, the CEO. Okay, so he is the one or she's the one responsible for all this. So the premise number 1 is saying that leaders are responsible for change and for planning and change. So they are the one who are responsible for this, especially change. We don't say planning only. We don't say transformation only. We say always change, because change is the ultimate result of planning. If you ask people, if you are among a group of people, and you ask them this question, why do we plan? So they will keep telling you different answers. We want to be better. We want to be more. We want to make more money. We want to be more profitable. We want to expand our coverage or whatever. And if you ask them what is the common factor in all these answers, they will find out that it is change. So the whole strategy management, as a result, planning, transformation, whatever, is to change the organization from one stage or from one shape to the other in the future. So the bottom line of strategic planning and strategic transformation and strategic management is change. That's why if you don't manage this change with culture management, then you will lose. That's why culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
And yes, and that is why we say that this is the first premise. The second premise, people support what they help create. This is the stage that you engage stakeholders all over the 5 activities of strategy formulation and strategic management. Okay, which is starting by formulating strategy, transformation, organization, execution, governing the strategy or governing the organization, and also the engaging stakeholders. So stakeholder people support what they help create. You have to share everything that you do with people, take their feedback, and make it happen with them. And that is actually throughout all the activities of strategic management and strategic formulation and strategic transformation, all the activities. And the third premise is using systems thinking approach. That's actually the 3 premises of strategy management. that impacts culture and impacts also strategy at the same time. To you, Qadir.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so Alex, we talk about so at what stage we need to discuss about strategy, sorry, culture. Okay, so who is responsible for this culture? Is it important to discuss from the beginning about the culture before taking up any strategy transformations? What do you think? So, at what stage we should discuss about the culture in the strategy transformation programs? Are you able to hear?
I think first thing I think is the responsibility of. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, go ahead, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
I said the first thing is that the responsibility sits with the leader of the organization together with his leadership team, because they set the tone and direction for the delivery of the results of the organization. They have a responsibility to create the right environment. Another substitute for culture, you will say, is climate. So what is the environment or the climate in which the organization is going to deliver the results? So this usually will happen right from the onset. So it's a CEO together with his leadership team. And within the leadership team, I think one of the major people responsible for that, for me, I think, is the HR director. So I always like to simplify the role of the HR director. For anybody who has worked with me, I always tell my HR director, you're responsible for the culture and values of the organization. You have a responsibility to hold the leadership to account and also the people to account, because that's how you then decide in choosing what we're going to do, who is going to do it, how we're going to do it. If these elements are not clear, then everything else becomes crazy. The big challenge is we always measure results and look at the outcomes, and therefore, if you can find a shortcut to the answer, it's why people don't really talk about culture. And I see this in probably what I call the best definition of leadership I've seen by Stephen Covey. Producing results. Leadership is producing results in a manner that inspires trust. And trust has two components, it's competence and character. And character is driven by habits, values, the way we operate. So if you hold people to account for doing that and you drive that, you get the results. So if an organization chooses to be a high-performing organization, the leadership drives the culture that ensures that people perform well, create the right kind of climate, drive the kind of energy of the organization, that happens. So at any point you're doing any strategic transformation, the key question is to ask whether our values, our behaviors are still relevant. If we're not getting the results that we want, where is the issue? And if you go and check deeply, you find that the issue is actually in the way we do things. So if there's that positive, honest confrontation about how we do things, then it is easy to do that. So it's right from the onset and through the way the organization evolves. If you find organizations start to die, it is where you find out that, okay, the real values of the company and the behaviors based on the culture that they have chosen are not being monitored, and people are not being held to account for whether they are following those things. That's what I think.
That's great. So we uniformly agree that the culture is one of the most important thing that should be started from the beginning, paid attention from the beginning of that transformation, and it should led by the senior leadership, the top, the CEO and HR directors and everybody. Now let us talk about some very interesting topic. Now let us say, as a leaders, you guys have come up with a gap in the culture. So you think that you take up a strategy transformation initiative. You notice that the culture could play a negative role or an important role in making the project success. Okay. So what is the options we have? Can we measure culture? First question, can we measure it? If we can measure it, how can we plan to close that gap? So this is something which is very critical. My third question is, in your experience, due to culture, have you seen any projects failed, or have you seen any projects got not so exciting results, what was intended. You don't have to name the organizations or something, but just give your experience. So how can we measure culture? Okay. And if you find a big gap in the culture, how you want to close it? Okay. And any real-time examples in your Dr. Hussam?
Okay. To be able to understand the gap, we have always to know the goal. Because if we don't measure against goals or results or outcomes, then we cannot know the goal, the gap, okay, or we cannot figure out the gap. So, and that is actually the whole thing about strategy. Strategy defines the goal, the ultimate goal of the organization, and it defines the core values, etc. So this goal will drive us towards success, okay, as we are planning. So when we measure or identify our current culture in the organization, then we are measuring this against this goal. I mean, like where we are now. So if we know where we are now and we know where we are going, then we find the gap here. The gap, and then we decide to build the bridge or to take the transportation that is suitable by speed, by magnitude, by time to reach this destination. Okay, and among which is the culture. Now, for me, culture means people. See, uh, so it's the people aspect of any achievement. So you cannot actually overlook the culture, because if you overlook the culture, you overlook the people who are working with you to achieve the organizational vision, mission, and objectives. Okay, that is actually how we can define the organizational culture. So if we overlook culture, we overlook people, and if we overlook people, then we have empty organizations. We have no value. Now, if you ask me about that organizations manage to succeed without managing culture or doing the change management accordingly, of course not. And that is the failure. When you hear Harvard Business Review and many research centers and data centers always saying that over 90 or 75 or 85% of strategy fails or projects fails, even PMI, it's because of this, of culture change, culture management. Culture is not only driven by core values of the organization, like that we decide in the strategy document, so, the strategic plan. Culture is about the whole concept, the whole attitude. Like I always take the metaphor of the car. If you want to reach from one place to the other, and you drive the car to go to this place, then you have to adhere by the culture of safety. Then you have to put the seat belt. You have to control your speed. You have to let people around you sitting in the car to behave accordingly, to adhere to the safety instructions and things like that. And without this, you cannot actually drive this car safely from the point that you are into your destination. So culture is about that. You have to have the right driving attitude by looking at the dashboard, monitoring the vehicle, monitoring the street, monitoring the way, the highway. So this is the whole culture that will take you safely from one point to the other. If you don't do that, then you will get in trouble, a way or another. So that is the culture, the discipline. The culture is the discipline that we look for to be able to reach to our goals. Okay, and that's actually the breaking point. Thank you very much.
Perfect. Engineer Ali, do you think we can measure culture in form of any metric? And in real time, I know you are a change leader for so much time. So any failed initiatives you have witnessed due to cultural gap? Okay, just would like to know about it. You don't have to name the organization.
First, there is a lot of tools actually available in the market can measure the culture, can evaluate for you how are we progressing in our culture. Famous, you can just Google it, you're gonna find a lot. So yes, actually, the simple question, it can be measured. However, without tools, you can notice what type, how culture is being moving during strategy execution. You can notice how is your KPIs of strategy is achieved. How is your financial situation reflected? For sure, your strategy will address some financial things. You're gonna measure your financial output. For sure, your strategy gonna mention something related to enhancing or improving skills of people. You can measure it. This can gives you something related to the culture. Are we moving? Are we achieving our strategy or not? So short answer, yes, there are some tools can support you to measure the progress of culture. And because why is that? Because culture, as we mentioned, we agreed at the beginning, culture matters. Culture matters. So during your journey towards achieving your strategic goals, you need something very important to be associated with you. You need people to be equipped with the appropriate skills. You need your employees to be motivated so they can work into the action and tasks that help you to reach out your strategic goals. You need people, teams to work together. You need them to implement the methodologies and plans that were put in place. You need them to adapt the execution, the changes. All of these related to people. You need them to adapt change. And one clear tool that can give you how you are progressing is people reaction, is people behavior toward achieving the sub goals until you reach out the end goals. And to take you back, little step backs, in order to make them work in a motivated way, in a collaborative way, there is something motivates them, which is the culture. Do they have the appropriate skill set? Do they have the belief and work on the execution of the strategy? Do they have the appropriate vision so they can work on the actions to reach the strategy? Are they having the value? Are they understanding the value of implementing the execution, the change, so they can reach out the final objectives? All of these is a definition of culture. Of course, there is, as Dr. Dr. Hussam mentioned, there is the literatures and studies have shown the high percentage of projects that failed to achieve one of its important pillars, whether cost-wise or time-wise or quality-wise. For sure, culture is part of, without even go deep dive in and check what types of pitfalls or failures that cause this big failure of project. For sure, culture, part of it. I have witnessed by myself, so many projects are delaying from achieving its final objectives. Thanks to God, yes, I have run a lot of projects, changing projects, 3 years project, 1 year project, transformation from state to another state. I am still undergoing with a huge 10-year transformational project. But what I have noticed, it is jeopardizing and delaying the achieving of your goals. One of the projects we worked on, it was 2-year implementation, and we took more than that time because mainly a lot of things, when we analyzed, a lot of things was related to culture and inappropriate change management were there. When we analyzed the gap, we found the main 2 reasons: the culture and inappropriate change management. You can measure even during the changing process the skill gap. You can just at one point come and assess your current skill. If you are facing problem in execution and achieving your KPIs, you can just come one time, one day, stop, try to look into the situation again, assess your current skills today, and you have for sure your future skill, and try to see the gap, why people today are not having this set of skills. Then, as usual, you try to rebuild, re-improve, re-emphasize how to rebuild to reach to the future set skills, so they can the employees can re-energize with the appropriate skills they need to reach to the future skills. To you, Engineer Sheikh. Thank you.
Very nice. Skills, motivation, and teamwork. These are the things which, of course, there are many other things, but skills, motivation, and teamwork. These are the key points, shows the culture and how people behave or express during the milestone achievements. So this will tell you how this change management, the culture change is going on. I think, Alex, I would like to ask you now. I always feel that everything addressing the questions related to culture or change or people start with the proper communication. Okay, so it should start the leadership should have a proper communication mechanism to communicate what is the expected, the change, and then how to walk the talk by the leadership. Okay, so what do you think when you have engaging such a large scale transformations? Okay, so how can you have been leading some strategic transformation? I know so how did you start communicating this change in the organization? And I will ask you one more question along with that. Do you ever invested some budget for the cultural change kind of thing? So usually, almost always, people ignore to do some allocation of the budget for this. I have a question also from Samir. I will raise that topic. Okay, Samir, just hold. Alex, in your leadership programs, so how did you communicate the cultural gap? And also, did you allocate budget for these initiatives? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first thing is for communication for me was to start from a position of authenticity. I think one of the other speakers has spoken about how you measure culture and the impact. And I think there are quite a number of tools. Organizations use value surveys, climate studies, and some qualitative measures. one of the biggest challenges of such tools is that after a while, they become things like scorecards that people want to show that we've done a good job, rather than help you understand and feel the pulse of the organization. So in one particular organization, actually in two different organizations, the surveys show that we were doing well as far as the values and behaviors were concerned, but the reality was different because we saw it in the performance. And I remember going back to the leadership team and saying, I don't believe that what we have written here is true. Because when I speak to the people, when I walk around, when I talk to people one-on-one, when I sit in the corridors, when I sit in the canteen, I get reports that there are things that people are not saying publicly. And so sometimes the way these things happen, you can actually do a lot of communication, but then you're not speaking the truth. So the first thing was to ask somebody, as aside from what had been done, to go to people and actually pull out all the senior people out of the room and just get to speak to the people and help them understand this is why we're trying to do this. And the outcome of that was clarity about what the real issues were. And the first thing for me as a leader was to apologize and say, look, we've said this, we've heard this, but what we see, I think there are some underlying issues. And so we had to do in one organization, basically every employee, we spend a full day involving some consultants, involving people from outside to get to speak and then to share what we wanted to do so that everybody understood that. So yes, the budget was allocated for that. We have to make sure that we spend some money to get that to happen. And the moment we did that, we started to see some openness. Of course, tied with that is the fact that, again, you're reviewing things like competencies. You're also understanding whether people really understood what they needed to get their job done. And so we could identify those who needed help. We could identify those who had a gap. And we could identify those who were not interested in moving on and were just finding a hiding place. And so it was easier for us to address the issue. So communication is key, but the communication has to be true and authentic. There were instances where we used tools, some technological tools where you can ask questions. I used to have the stand-up meetings or town halls. And initially we used these tools and I just told the guys a simple measure. I will know that we're at a point where people are being true and open when I see people start putting their names when they're asking questions, because these tools allow you to ask questions anonymously. And then gradually in some of the branches of the organization, you could find people actually ask questions and speak and put their names in there, because it tells me that, okay, they're confirming that we're getting a bit of confidence that we can say what we feel, we can say what we think without it being held against us. So good to communicate, good to make sure you're out there with people, but it's good to be conscious of the failures of some of the tools or some of the communication measures, and to be careful that you're not hearing what they think you want to hear, and therefore you're acting on those bases. I don't know if that answers the question.
Perfect. This is something which is very interesting. If you ask some kind of survey or open question for all, and if they write any advice or something and they put their name, that shows that leadership is in an acceptable form. Okay, so they're really encouraging change. Okay, that is something which is very, very interesting.
There, I have something here to add, please.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go
Of
ahead.
course, we all believe in the power of communication. That's why the strategy experts always say communication. It's a very important thing in strategy transformation and also in strategy formulation as well. But we have to be careful, because communication is a two-bladed sword. We have two ways of communication. We have the implicit and the explicit communication. Lots of organizations fall into the trap of public communication. Like they start to make a big fuzz about strategy, to the extent that they shock even the stakeholders. when did the question mark will be always, when they did this overnight, brochures and flags and mugs and whatever, sticky notes or computer screen backgrounds on the computer, like to tell people that we did this and you don't know about it, so please know. And this kind of communication in the beginning, because we have to know that everything has a time and the right time for everything. We cannot just say we need just to do communication all the time. Yes, we need, but we have to design the right magnitude and the style of communication in every stage of strategy. Because if we use an extra dose, okay, we will end up shocking people, losing interest, raising resistance, also losing money, losing a lot of money, because these things cost a lot of money. When you start strategy by making a big fuzz and explosion about strategy, that yes, now we have strategy, pop, 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 so everybody talks about it. Big shows, big talk shows, gathering people in one place in a big hall, and talking about strategy in the beginning of the strategy. This is absolutely wrong. Absolutely. The necessary communication in the beginning of strategy process is the continuous meetings between the advocates of strategy, the people who believes in the strategy or the goal or where the organization wants to go, and the others. Over private dinners, over coffee, over whatever. Because, when we start strategy, we have like 4 kinds of people facing us. Okay, this is how we plan the communication. We have to know with whom we are communicating inside the organization and outside the organization as well. Don't forget that. But inside the organization, we have the advocates. These are 5% maximum at the beginning. 5%. Okay, according to John Cutter and the researchers on the field. And then we have the apathetics, the people who doesn't care if you have strategy or you do try, as long as you pay them, then they are happy, no problem. And you have the incubators, people who have the idea but they are not sure if they will follow you or they don't follow you, or we call them the cynic, we call them they are the incubators. So they are suspecting, they are suspecting what you are trying to do, but they are not sure. Okay. And then we have the resistors. These are the 4 types of people. So in the beginning of communication, we need continuous face-to-face communication between the advocates and those people. And even privately, over lunch, over dinner, this will have less impact on budget of change. And at the same time, it will start diffusing the right energy of change to the people in a very intimate way. Okay, instead of starting with the big fuzz and public, public and this and that, you like putting people in front of the fact of strategy. This is not good. This is not the right way of communication.
Perfect.
That's what I wanted to speak
Yeah,
about communication,
that's
because
good.
it can be a two-bladed sword.
Yeah, that is true, Dr. Hussam. When we are doing any large communication, what we did is when we did the strategy transformation way back in 2007, 2008. So there are series of internal meetings where the chief executive had conducted and communicated the key and necessity for the change. Guys, we have a trouble in the organization. We need to change. Otherwise, it will be a big problem for the organization. Sense of urgency. Okay, so this has been communicated in bits and pieces to almost all key people in the organization. Then you come up with the inputs from them. Not all people agree. Okay, not everybody will agree. As you said, there will be some suspects, so they don't agree. Okay, so but at least they know what is coming up. So then, when you do the big communication across the organization, okay, so you reduce the resistance at least in the key people level. Okay, so communication here, there is no perfect communication. So you need to find proper communication channel for the particular business and the culture where you are in. I totally agree. And there is no perfect one kind of approach. What is the best approach for communication? It depends on the organization. The better you do communication, the better there is a chance that you reduce resistance. Okay, so that's the idea. Now let us talk about to just make it more encouraging. Samir, you are there. You would like to speak of your question because you put up a larger long question. You
Yes.
want me to read?
I
Yeah, please. Go ahead. Yes, Samir.
I
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you very much for giving me this chance, and I really enjoyed already a lot of learnings to take away from the discussion so far. My question, the strategy execution side. Normally, either it's ignored, especially on the change management side, or even the cultural transformation that is needed. There is no budget allocated for it, and it's often considered as okay, it's understood or it's given by the leaders. So how do we convince the leaders or the top managers, top management, to focus on the cultural transformation itself? And as we discussed earlier, the change is very important, and at the bottom line is we are bringing the change to the organization. So how do we convince the top management in the importance of change management and the cultural transformation needed for any strategy execution for that case? Thank you.
I think you can answer because I know this is something which we all gone through. Ali, I remember when we do the change program together. Okay, so there was a lot of resistance. Dr. Hussam, you are expert in this. How to convince the top management for the budget? Please, Gary, carry on. If anybody
The problem of top management that I saw over the years, that they think that they are exempted. They think that they are not meant by change, so they keep assigning tasks to others, like it's not their business. See, and when people start seeing this by itself, they start the resistance by itself,
Yes.
because executives, they think that they are exempted. They don't have
You're
to
right.
learn. They don't have to attend workshops. They don't have to participate in the in the in the in the planning. They don't have to participate in it because they are senior leaders. So they are not
Correct.
meant by all this. Okay, and that's actually the biggest disaster that can happen in any strategy or any leadership constitution in the organization. This is the biggest disaster, the biggest ever disaster that can happen, that the leadership exempt themselves voluntarily from the whole process because they don't need to be there, because they are the ones who cannot be questioned. They are the ones who cannot be touched. They are the ones, especially owners, like in family owned companies and personal owned companies. They always think themselves they're above, the planning process, above the change process. They are not meant by that. And here is the disaster. They lead the organization to the hell, to the hellfire, and they don't know that. And people say always that if you point your finger to one the people in front of you, you have to look at the three fingers pointing back to you. With your finger, when you say like this, there are three fingers pointing back to you. So you are more responsible than the people that you are pointing out. So we have to inform people. Like, if you are not in the workshop, there is no workshop. If you are not following and you don't approve everything in writing, and you make decrees and you make decisions, there is no more work. Everything will stop when the CEO, even the discussion, when the CEO goes out of the room to the toilet, then we have to stop the workshop until he comes back. Yeah.
That is very
That is how
interesting.
important is
Yeah.
that. Yes.
I'll add one more here. What happens if the culture and problems start with the top? Okay, as you said. Okay, so there are 2-3 scenarios, I might be wrong. I'm not generalizing it. I see a problem. The CFOs who are very successful becoming CEOs. Okay, so they apply the same style of, not all, by the way. There are some exceptional CFOs who are very people oriented. I'm not talking about them. There are some technical people who are very successful as CFOs. They become CEOs, and then I personally see there is some change problem, because the way they govern the thing is little confidential kind of thing. And also the owner managed companies. Okay, the owner managed companies also the same problem. Okay, so I feel myself now, even in data labs, so owner managed companies, it's almost always has a problem change. Okay, so how does we address these kind of challenges? So if the challenge is at the top, maybe the top CEO or the next layer, so how do you address this? Ali, you have Alex, I think you can talk about this. So what is the best way to communicate this in a way to help them really to adopt the change? Yeah. Mhm. Ali, would you like to answer this?
Yeah,
Alex?
yeah. Please go ahead, Alex. Please.
Alex, you are
I
senior.
think it's all right. I think it's almost like, how will I call it? Is it chicken and egg? And this is where you have the right values in an organization, it actually helps the people below to be able to do it, because when you encourage that kind of open communication. So what I always tell people, that your values are supposed to be a sword and a shield. When you're trying to share ideas about what needs to happen, it's very hard for you to find senior leadership when you ask them questions and say, look, you've asked us to do this and you've told us our values are like this. So how come we're seeing this different? So it's either something is wrong with our values or what we're seeing is different. It's very difficult for them to defend, right? So they will always come back and say, oh, no, it's not this and that and that and that. But then they become conscious. But you need to have people underneath them who have courage. But I think the more responsibility comes from the boards who are responsible to hold the CEOs to account. You need to have more than just a distant interest in the way things are run, because only on the numbers, what will happen is the organization will end up being destroyed and you will not have a clue what is happening. And there's some things that you always have to ask this kind of questions to say, okay, what are some of the things? So whilst measuring the performance, it's good to look at some of the underlying things. I sit on some boards, a couple of small organizations, and I make sure once in a while I actually go into the company, right? When we have board meetings, maybe a day or so before, and I like to meet people who are in that company, right? Who are working at some junior levels. That way it allows you to just get a pulse and you can set a direction. For people who are in leadership, who are CEOs, they have to understand that you are the face of the culture of the organization. People will see what you do rather than listen to what you say. So if you're conscious of that, there's something I learned from a leader a long time ago. He says, look, your actions are so loud that I cannot hear your words. I think it's important that people recognize that. And if they do that, I think that's the only way to fix it. Where you have a boss where there's a lot of dominance and there's nobody that can hold to account, it's very tough. What ends up happening is that if people are frustrated that they can't cut through, they end up leaving the organization.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ali.
Yes. In addition to that, as we mentioned earlier, what stage culture should be addressed? It is in the middle, is it in the middle, at the end, at the beginning, and we said from day one, from the beginning. It is very difficult situation if the top management are not convinced by the importance of culture and change management. That's why from the beginning of formulating the strategy, of developing, of analyzing the situation, you have to gain the opportunity. At that time, you have to gain the opportunity and try to convince the top management about the importance of culture and change management. Sometimes you cannot by yourself do it. So you have to utilize some other tools. Some top management CEOs or VPs or whatever top management, they are convinced by the external consultant. So you have to work closely with the external consultant. So the culture and the change management and such things can be conveyed through this consultant to the top management, because usually top management are, especially in dramatic, if there is any huge change, any transformation, strategy transformation, they are usually convinced by external consultant. So yes, it is very difficult. If the top management is not convinced, the organization will suffer. And one of the ways or tools is to bring external consultant. The other tool is if you are doing developing the strategic shifting planning, you have to from day one address the culture importance and change management importance through benchmarking, through other stories, comparing to like the same industry of your organization or some similar organization to yours. So you can convince the decision makers. Usually decision makers, when you bring them some facts from outside, from the market, usually they become convinced. And then it comes the investment now thinking. Okay, I am convinced, but how is the investment in culture and change management? Is it cost? Then you have to go with another way of convincing. How you convince the top management about the cost of embedding culture and change management in your strategy planning or change planning execution. So this is in brief the answer to what you addressed, Engineer Sheikh and Samir.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. So in short, if I really understood what you have explained. So you basically said that create some kind of benchmark, bring some facts from other best practices of some successful organizations, and then use this and convince some senior leaders who can support you. Then you put up some kind of investment plan and try to present it. If they are not convinced, or if they need some more support, try to take the help from a consultant also. That's fantastic. That's a fantastic way. Samir, I hope you got the answer. Now let us, since we passed 1 hour already, so now let's go to some technical things. Let us talk about how to integrate competencies, the culture, and then the people. Okay, I think now let us talk about actionable things, competencies. Dr. Hussam, I know you are expert in this. So how to mix up this culture, competencies, and then
Okay.
people. Now this is what's the
Actually,
talk. Now let us talk something very serious.
exactly. We always talk about culture. How can we measure culture? Can we measure that? Can we measure this? But the goal of measurement is management, because as Peter Drucker said, what you can't measure, you can't manage. So the ultimate goal of any measurement is management. So for us to manage the culture, instead of just talking about measuring the culture, importance of culture, whatever, we have to enforce culture. We have to tell people like we do. This is actually a part of systems thinking. Like you do things naturally, universally. Like when you drive the car and you have your family along with you. You have kids, you have adults, all riding with you. When you get in the car, you tell everybody, please put the safety belt. Okay, please don't move too much. Please do this, please do that. And you keep monitoring this behavior towards the success of the journey. So that is actually, because if we keep just talking about subjective things and without any enforcement, then we will not be able to measure or to manage or to do anything. We have to translate these into a framework, into a very simple way of behaviors that people, even they don't know that these behaviors are change management, but they have to adhere to it because it will become part of their performance assessment and performance success inside the organization. I tend to give this as a scenario when you write for movies. Okay, like when you read the scenario, then you decide, okay, who's going to be the superstar, the champion of this movie, who's going to do this role and that role and this role and this role, based on the character that you have in the movie. It's exactly the same. And then the director of the movie will supervise the actors in how they behave to be successful in their role in that movie. So they will tell them, okay, at this point, you have to turn right and look at the sky and then shout. At this point, do this. At this point, do that. And this is what differentiates between the superstars and the comparse. You know, the people who are just normal people who can never make it to the Grammy Awards or whatever. Okay, superstars are the ones who can really manage to act according to the role required. So competency is exactly that. We take this strategy, vision, mission, strategy, goals, objectives, core values, feedback loops, whatever. We put it in one mixer and we grind it. And that nectar, that mix that comes out, is the competencies.
Competency.
Okay, so the competencies actually is a set of behaviors that and skill set that you establish, attitude set or behavior set that you establish inside the organization in all levels. So you will decide according to the strategy what kind of competencies that you need, a behavior set that you need in all levels. So there are leadership competencies, general competencies, technical competencies, job family competencies, common competencies. So you decide what competencies you will need to make this organization successful. Okay, and then one of the first projects that we do in strategy transformation is the restructuring of the organization, because we need to do two things. To do restructuring of the organization, because you cannot operate with the same mindset and the same structure as before. You have a new strategy, so you have to have a new organization born from the old one. Because if you keep doing, you know, like insanity, like, you know, like Einstein defined insanity is to keep doing the same if you keep doing things with the same way and you expect different results. This is insanity. Okay, so you cannot do that. You have to change the organizational structure. You have to make a new system of job profiling and whatever. And in this, before you go to execution, I'm talking before you go to execution, then in this also you will come up with the competency framework completely for this organization using competency dictionaries, whatever, and develop this. And you start dividing the best practice in competency is to assign 12 competencies per job maximum, because you cannot because otherwise they will get confused. So they will have, like, for example, general competencies. For the leaders, they will have leadership competencies. For the lower levels, they will have like job family competency and technical competencies. Okay, so these competencies are set of behavior. Like, for example, client focus is a competency. Let me give you an example. Client focus is a competency, and then you will have and under client focus, the definition of client focus, because you will make a competency dictionary for the organization. So everybody will know what does it mean. So we will not have a discussion about what client focus means. For all of us, it's available in the dictionary. That is, everybody know what is client focus. So, and then in the client focus definition, we will assign like 5 levels, because this is too much complicated. We make it simple. We make it 3 levels, like entry, intermediate, and high level of behavior competency. So when you talk about leaders, then you have to assign the higher level, which is level 3 of each competency, like client focus, to them. And this levels will have a written behavior. Like, for example, client focus. For example, if we go to the front lines, we'll say the employee who is practicing this competency should stand up in facing the client, should smile, should deal with the client in a very nice way, very gentle way, should talk to the client softly, should be dressed well. So you see, and when you evaluate, you cannot miss that, because these are things that is so visual that you cannot miss it. So if you apply a 360 degrees performance management or performance evaluation, no one can miss these things. If you ask someone about an employee from outside, like a client, because it is 360 degrees, does Qadir, Mr. Qadir Sheikh, he's in the front desk, did he smile with you? You say no. He's always giving me a bad face. Is he dressed well? Maybe. Is he? Did he stand up and welcome you? No, he did not. He shook hand with me like while sitting, like I'm a piece of shit. You see? So the client will give you a feedback. The colleague will give a feedback. The manager will give a feedback. Everybody will give a feedback. And this is where we are actually sharpening the behavior of the culture by force, by the competency framework. And by time, okay, people will have notes. We will not tell people, okay, we'll cut from you 3 days salary, whatever this, the concept of punishment, like a lot of organization wants to do. No, we will just call those people and tell them, okay, we are receiving this feedback. So this will impact your performance. So the whole performance is not about attendance and whatever, which is the conventional way of non-strategy based companies. So we'll tell this guy, now if you want your performance to get higher, and you will get bonuses and you will get like advance in this job, then you have to smile to the client, my friend, and you have, or even that this guy is an introvert, he doesn't like people, so you remove him or remove her from the front line because she will never be successful in that. And who tell you this information? Feedback is the competency. Competencies are extremely important in HR management. Like Alex was mentioning, like this is the way how to enforce culture change in a very nice way, in a scenario technique. Okay. And here you will see the superstars are appearing, the lower people are appearing. You will start knowing that this guy is not suitable for the front line. You have to put him in the back line. This person is this person is that. And this is where you create the harmony through the competency framework. And you use competencies for a lot of things, for appraisals. You use it for hiring. You use it for promoting. You use it for training skills. So if there's any gap, you use this to train people, and your training will be very objective. You are not going to send people for time management just for the sake of training. No, you will start having proper training approaches. Like you want to train people on certain things that will really come back with a big ROI for the organization. Okay, you use this for promotion. You use competency framework for succession planning, which is very important. Lots of organizations are overlooking this, and that is the importance and how we apply the competency framework. Okay,
Perfect.
That's about the competency framework.
I think a very good start for the Dr. Sam for the competency profiling. I think when you do the competency profile, okay, when we have any strategy transformation program, Then you perform the competency profile. You come up with a gap. Okay, do it properly. And then if this gap is affecting you for the strategy execution, you try to plan to close that gap. And you need to schedule your programs. It could be a training, it could be a workshop, or it could be a discussion, or it could be restructuring is a job description, or informing him, his manager informing him about the role, whatever it could be. It could be a small discussion, it could be a big workshop, or it could be a training. Once you have the competency profile, you come up with the gaps, you try to close it in a systematic way required for the strategy transformation. Okay. Now, Engineer Ali, you are leading a very large HR department in a public sector. Okay. How do you do that? Okay. It must be a very big challenge for you. How do you do that in a real time? Yeah.
Okay. It's about as you started this theme. It's about integration of competency, integration of culture, integration of communication, change management, etc. Integration of these things together. Competencies is something part of general thing. I think I believe competency is something totally different than culture. Competencies can be vary across all employees in organization, while culture can be one theme, one unified signal or theme or shape of the organization, while competencies something scattered, depends on the organization, especially when they are big, they have different departments, IT, human resources, finance, blah blah blah, etc. Each one will have its own competencies to achieve the job requirements. However, to cover all of them under one umbrella, one organization, there is something unifying them, which is culture. Culture of innovation, culture of adaptability, culture of collaboration, etc. These things can unify the organization. Today, from HR perspective, I to some extent, I agree with Alex and Dr. Hussam in terms of the role of HR and enforcing culture. But it will be to some extent, but it will be very difficult to keep it only on HR. Culture is something more than HR. HR, like the other, for example, HR, CHRO or VP of HR or HR director, is equal to the other peers, chief of operation, chief of staff, IT director, whatever. You cannot enforce such culture without somebody stronger, like a CEO or the VP is there in the top. As HR, we try to develop the appropriate competencies for each department in the organization. We try to build the appropriate job description, roles, responsibility, of course, with the expertise for each department. We try to bring the competencies clear with the related job description. However, let me when we talk about strategy execution, when you talk about strategy building and execution, in order to move forward to achieving the goals, you need to divide or analyze your strategy very well. Strategy usually has some enablers, like technical enablers, financial enablers, capability enablers, etc. Part of the enablers, availability or qualifying people, training people, and give them the right and appropriate skills and competencies so they can work out with you during the strategy. So when you look into the strategy, you will come up with the need of qualified people. When you look into open what type of qualified people you need to go to see what type of competencies you need so you can get your people qualified. Then above that, in order to achieve the whole strategy, there is something called culture. Culture is not related to competencies. It's not related to department. It is not related to only group of people. It is not related only to strategy execution. Execution is bigger than that. Then above that, you need to cover all of this with change management. So in order to make appropriate solution for strategy development and execution, in addition to analyzing and paying attention to other enablers I mentioned earlier, you need to integrate you need to qualify the people based on the right competencies, based on the right job description, and cover it with culture and change management approaches so you can reach out your objective.
Perfect, perfect. I think that's very important. Now, since we talk about competencies, culture, there are two most important things. Of course, we talk about the resistors who have the change. So, Alex, if you're able to hear, now, while doing the transformations, how do you manage change? So, what are the key things in real time? You have done many change engagements yourself, I know. So, how do you lead change in the organization? My next question is just you can anticipate for everybody is we need to measure the performance of the individuals. While measuring the performance, almost always, if there is no proper governance, HR will have the HR performance management, and then strategy has its own strategy performance indicators or KPIs or whatever. Now, we talk about two things. First thing, let us talk about when you do a change management, when you know that, when do you know that the change is required and how you manage the change? Let us take up this debate. This is very important, all of us. Okay. So, Alex, you can start with you. So, how do you manage change for the large scale transformations in your real time experience?
I think the first thing is to establish the reason for change. And I think it's not just to do change management because everybody, I think there has to be a very strong reason. Is the organization facing threats? I think in one or two instances, for me, it was basically showing the performance over the years and showing do not think all of us will lose. All right. So I think the first thing is to establish what is the reason or the basis why is change required. I think it's also important to establish what will be the outcome of change for everyone. What's the benefit for everyone? Why must we change? Right. I think it's important to do that. And I think it's also important to help people understand that the change process is going to be tough. And it's going to have certain impacts because it is foolhardy to say and to expect that people will not be affected or there will be no impact. But it's to help people understand that, okay, even in all the impact of whatever will happen, what are the guiding principles that ensure that we will treat people with dignity and respect? I think that's the first thing you have to establish before you start doing anything. The second thing is then to understand what is required and what are the changes and how long does it take? Again, when you're doing change management, because culture involves behaviors, this usually takes time. And I think in a lot of instances I've seen where we think that it's going to happen within 3 to 6 months, right? I think we've got to clarify to people that sometimes when you're doing this change, you're going to see a drop in results. for this reason, because we're struggling to make these changes, and this is what we're going to see. But this is how we will know we're making change and the change is actually working for us. So within this period, we'll see this kind of dip, and within this period, then we'll start to see this, and then we'll start to see. Because I've had instances where people say, oh, Alex, you told us this thing bring results, we're still not seeing the result. I said yes, but if you go down and look at the things we say, we will start to see that it's showing us that we're changing, that we'll start to see some of these underlying results, and then this is the period it will take for it to start to have an impact in the overall results. Because if you don't do that, once change starts to happen and you start to have the dip, the tendency is to want to go back to where we were before. So I think critical to have that, critical to also ensure across the organization at different levels, the people that you're constantly communicating who are like your champions, they understand what it means, they understand what's going to happen, and therefore when we have challenges, we deal with that. You've got to deal with issues around communication, especially where there's misconception or misunderstanding. So you have to nip it early in the bud. If something happens, you've got to stand in front of people and say, look, this is what has happened, this is what it means. So you can't allow room for any misinformation. One of the mistakes I have made in the past is trying to make sure you want to carry everybody as possible. It's not going to work. There's some people who will be naysayers, right? And the earlier you understand that, the people who keep quiet, they're not saying yes or no, but they actually can poison the minds of others, especially when things start going wrong. So I think it's critical to bite the bullet. Don't try to do change by 1,000 cuts. So we're trying to do things as small as possible so that people don't get hurt. No, I think you've got to bite the bullet as much as possible. So this for me are some of the things that I've seen have helped during transformation.
Before talking about more change, there is a question, Engineer Ali, to you. Jacqueline, would you like to ask a question to Ali? Because it's a long question. I can read it out, but if you could ask yourself, that will be great. You, Deep, can you unmute?
So it's okay. I can answer
You can see
directly.
the question, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the first question is it possible that there may be external factors that impact organizational culture? Yes, of course. Sometimes you are forced by external factors to change your culture, your organizational culture, financial crisis, regulations, new regulations from government, competition, etc. So there are some external factors I don't know if I say can help to change your organizational culture or change it toward something positive to your organization. So this is the first question. The second question is how can the board provide support for the culture change? See, there is today there is differentiation between the roles and responsibility, at least here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, between the responsibility of board of directors and the CEO. And the main channel to the board of directors is the CEO. There is a clear roles and responsibility for the CEO and top management and board of directors. However, usually CEOs have a great authority and support to achieve the organization vision. But in case they need more support to get back to the board of director, always the CEO needs to build the case very clear, needs to connect to the main benefits or the main values or the main things that board of directors pay attention to. especially in the profit organizations. Always board of directors look into the financial impact. If you can build the case of having the support of culture change and the impact on financial impact, that will be very vital for you to convince the board of director to give you more fund, more support, approving some strategy change, etc. Hope I have answered your question, Jacqueline.
I have more comment on this, Father. This is the point that you
Please go
mentioned,
ahead.
but this is the
Please
point
go
that you
ahead.
mentioned, but we always don't touch it, which is the governance. The governance. The governance is a very important activity in strategy direction in general, like all the activities I say. So when you in all stages, we have a role of the board of directors, not only in the change management. We have a role for the board of directors, starting from the formulation of strategy to the transformation of the organization, to the execution of strategy and change, to the engaging stakeholders. So always the role of board of directors is through. Now, when we have a strategy in the organization, we have to build a new governance model for the strategy and for the board of directors and for the executive leadership. So there will be, as there will be a new operating model, there will be a new governance model. Okay, and the board of directors will support. Okay, the executive leadership will report to the board of directors. Board of directors will approve and send back and monitor. Okay, through the whole process of the organization. So that's a very important role, which is governance. The summary of this whole thing is governance. Governance is very important, and by the way, governance has been overlooked in strategy as the culture is being overlooked, because we think that just strategy is to formulate strategy, then execute strategy, and then complain why strategy doesn't work. So we overlook culture and we overlook governance, because in an organization that have strategies, you have to have a new operating model as well as new governance model for both the board of directors and also the organization itself. Okay, as executive leadership and all the way down. Okay,
They take it for granted. Governance is taken.
Now, I just want to mention one thing, Father. Now you are actually doing a great job in Pro Strategy by transmitting all these things into what we call it data clear, lines. Now this is the problem in strategy. Strategy is very subjective matter that no one is being able to understand it. And always when you corner people, they keep saying, schools, different way of thoughts, different this, different that, you see, because they are just escaping from the real problem. Now, our role as strategy professionals and consultants is to make everything quantitative. That's why I'm saying we use competencies in a very clear, black and white, control the culture of the organization. There is a way. Yeah. So my point that I make solid here, that everyone wants to implement a strategy or wants to enter into a strategy, I promise you that we can quantify everything for you, and you will see things black and white. There is no more subjective matters. There is no more ambiguity. Like it's different thoughts, different schools, different whatever. This kind of answers that doesn't actually let you feel comfortable. Okay, so that is my point. So feel free. Don't worry. I mean, like, go ahead and do strategy, and don't worry. We will make everything black and white for you and quantifiable. Like I'm working personally with Mr. Qadir to make a lot of things quantifiable and computer-based. We will make change management computer-based. We will make culture management computer-based. We will make HR management computer-based. You will see everything black and white. Okay, black and white. And this is actually our role as strategy professionals at consultant to make your life easier and better with strategy. Thank you.
Perfect. I think we left with 10 minutes. So any questions from the audience, we'll be very happy to take it up. Okay. Samir, you can talk.
Sorry, Engineer Sheikh. I missed one question of Jacqueline,
Please.
which is it possible that there may be external factors that impact organizational culture? I answered this question, but the one which I did not answer, if yes, how might this impact the organization's reaction to the proposed change? During analyzing the gaps of your organization in order to build your strategy, you have to look into the internal and external factors. So you're gonna find external factors, a lot of external factors, a lot of risks. You have to take it into consideration during developing your strategy. And frequently you have to review your strategy for any changes, internally or externally. When you build the strategy, it doesn't mean it is fixed, constant, you cannot change it. No, you have to watch out what type of external or internal strong factors that may affect your strategy, and then you update it. This is my answer. Thank you. Please, to you, Engineer Sheikh.
Perfect. Since we are running out of time, I wish we can extend for maybe for a few minutes. Alex, I think you rejoined. Victor, yeah, would you like to speak, Victor? Or there is a message. Okay. I see a question. I'm not able to see it again. Where is it? Okay. I'm not able to see. Deep, if you are able to see, please pass it on.
I have a comment.
Okay. Yeah. He's in a noisy place. Victor has a message. I have seen executive management in organizations make efforts at changing a culture, but revert to the familiar to drive results. And please, certain power bases. Okay, how can an organizations keep numbers up while managing culture change? So there is a chance that the culture will go back to the previous one. How can we make sure that the culture change sustain? Okay, if I understand correctly, Mr. Victor. Okay, so would you like to answer, Alex? Since you joined late, you would like to answer this? We're able to. Yeah.
For this to happen, like I said, if you want to drive culture change, both to the board and the people, I think you've got to be clear about what the impact will be and how the results will come in. Because I think expectation is the mother of disappointment. And if you set high expectations from the onset and you're put under pressure, then what will happen is there will be a reversal. And this, for me, actually, it's where you see the real extent or the strength of leadership. I think one fundamental quality that is called out, but we don't talk about, is the courage to stand up for what you believe in and your convictions. And so in most instances where you don't have the courage, especially with the leadership team, to say, we believe what we are doing is right, and therefore it's going to take a while, but we know that this is what is going to happen, then it is difficult, and you always have that reversal. So I've seen instances where, yes, we stuck to our guns, And it's taken close to a year for us to start to see some of the results. But when it happened, we started to see real transformations. I've also seen instances where, because we didn't call out the extent of the rot and the change required, right? The moment we started to see some short-term positive results, it was assumed that we were out of the woods, and therefore it was expected that the results were going to happen. So I think it's understanding that when you're doing change, especially depending on the extent to which the change is required and the assessment of the state of the organization, it is very easy for you to get a reversal where the leadership is not joined up together in saying we understand what is happening and therefore we have to fight with this. I think culture and results are not either or, they are not alternatives. I think, and it's tied to some of the concepts that have been spoken before. We want to produce sustainable high results. We've got to be clear the kind of competencies and behaviors that are required to do that. We've got to look for the people that help us do that. We've got to reward them in a manner that ensures that that energy is sustained. Sometimes we'll have external factors or certain environments or situations that will challenge the way the results are delivered, but we've got to recognize that, and therefore we ensure that we are still focusing on doing the right things, and we see what those blips in performance as temporary blips. So it's not an either or. When we do change management or try to change culture as a separate agenda thing, not in line with driving overall business performance, then it becomes difficult and the organization will revert. I have seen instances where organizations revert and then they get into a deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper problem. And then they're forced to go back to the same solutions that they started a few years back, but sometimes it might be too late. The trust has been broken and they've lost some of the good people, and then it will actually take them longer to get back to where they were before.
That's true. Yeah. So since we're running out of time, we talk about the most important topic. How does that performance management of the people, especially the people performance management, how does that address the cultural gap thing? Okay, so let us quickly talk about it for a few minutes. Engineer Ali and Dr. Sam, we would like to touch the performance management. How we would like to report performance management, especially based on the competencies. Okay,
Yeah.
and how does that help us to close the gap?
Okay. I will just go quickly over four things. Okay, very quickly. The subject of loss is inevitable. This is something that people, especially executives, they don't like to hear. When you start the strategy planning process or the strategic management process or the strategy process, you have to tell them that the loss is inevitable. You will lose. All right. I mean, don't worry about loss, because you will reach the point, you go down like the roller coaster. You will go down, so you will lose money, you will lose time, you will lose things, but this loss is for future gain. Like when Jack Welch took over in 1992, I think, took over General Electric, and there was like 220,000 employees in General Electric. When he came in and he started to restructure General Electric, he fired 90,000 employees. And they called him that time in the newspaper the Dark Jack.
Dark Jack.
Dark Jack. Like they said, they were complaining he's a very bad guy. Then he restructured General Electric and he hired back 220,000 employees in General Electric in over 95 countries. So there will be loss, definitely, inevitably. Nobody think that when you start something strategy that you will not lose. No, you will lose. My friend, my dear, hear it loudly. You will lose. You cannot avoid losing. You will lose, but this loss is for a better future. Okay, and the second point, we need to emphasize on culture strategies, very successful culture strategies, because we talk about culture, but we have to drag the attention of people that there are some strategies that are very important in changing culture right now, which is, for example, the agility culture and the IDE culture. These are any organization that they want to change culture or change management, they have to focus on the agility culture, the culture of agility, and the IDE. The IDE means, which is very famous now, it means inclusion, diversity, and equity. This is one of the most important strategies to change culture. You have to have inclusion, diversity, and equity in terms of people, okay? And the culture of agility, okay? These are very important things. These are the points that I want to mention. Talking about performance, very quickly, I will leave the microphone to Engineer Ali. Performance, what you can't measure, you can't manage. You have to manage performance in all aspects and on a 360. So the strategy management department, which is a very important structure here, we have to mention that every organization that has a strategy, then they have a strategic management office. We call it strategy management office, SMO. Okay, and this would replace all the other structures before, PMO, whatever. PMO will be part of the SMO. All right, and then in this, they will overlook all the performance in different functions and levels, in HR, in the performance management, in the culture management, in the initiatives management, in all things. So as a structure, this is very important, and they can adapt whatever systems for performance management, especially make this performance as a tool for a feedback that will improve the culture and improve the performance of the whole organization. Thank you very much.
I think we run out of time. Samir, there is one question from Samir, the final question. Okay. There was a question from Samir. You would like to ask?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to see if there is any benchmarks or any recommendations that the speakers have that we can use a tool or a maturity model to assess the culture of an organization. So you must have used anything in your practice or experience. If there is anything that you guys can recommend, that would be really helpful for us.
I use Denson Circle. It's very good, actually, very comprehensive tool. Okay, I used it as an evaluation tool. It's a very good and comprehensive one. If you look at it, search it. It's called Denson. I'll try to find a link and send it to you. It's something that you can also input some of the points that you need. It's flexible, so you can evaluate, and this will send like questionnaire to all levels of employees, and they will answer these questions, and then they will be put into analysis, and it will show you where are you available. And by the way, it's not only that is important. Also, in the strategic reviews, we have a tool called strategic management maturity. You have to evaluate the maturity of the strategic management inside the organization, how the organization is successfully going towards the vision and mission. So we have also the strategic management maturity module, which is an evaluation. Part of that is the culture, but we have a lot of things like the strategy planning, the performance management, the leadership, the change management, everything. That's part also of this, which is this was done by the strategy management group, the strategic management maturity model, and the Denson Circle is something just to measure the culture. I don't know if somebody else uses anything else.
We use like a SFO assessment, strategy focused organization assessment.
Yes,
Okay,
we use the same
SFO assessment that we also built into our system. If you have any other methodology, also we can include it, because the the holistic mechanism is most important. Yeah, we run out of time actually. Any final thoughts? Because we because people have attended for so long. Okay, so any final thought, Alex, Ali, and Dr. Hussam, so that we can conclude the call. If any questions from audience, this will be recorded and hosted in the website and also in LinkedIn. So I'm sure people will watch it later because of the Ramadan and other weekend. So they will watch it, and if they come up with any questions, we definitely pass it to you as a speakers. Any final thoughts?
Yes, usually if there is any strategy execution, people tend to ignore the people side of change. So to anyone here us, it is very important to pay attention to these two factors, two main topics we've talked about, culture and change management, in order to achieve our strategic goals. Thank you very much, Engineer Sheikh.
Okay, any final thoughts, Alex?
Okay. Yes, I think what I always say is that, look, the only thing that is proprietary to any organization are the brands and the people. And what drives the people or how people thrive is if you create the right culture. There's a culture that determines the way the organization runs, the tools that you use, and how you reward, and therefore how you recruit. So it is very, very critical to understand that. I think in doing all of these things, right, I think there is a call for simplicity. Less is more. Yes, there are 1,001 competency models. For me, I prefer to keep them simple, functional, what is required for the person to do the role, behavioral. Who do you have to be as a person, therefore, to thrive in these kind of organizations? Performance management, I think, how do we measure performance overall? And we tie everything. So we don't have a separate model or a separate tool, or else we start to create gap. Change management, governance, less is more. The more you keep it simple and you measure and track things, then you find out you get the kind of results. At the end of the day, I think the choice of the leaders that you make is the most important thing. Again, I'll sum by Covey's definition. Leadership is producing results in a manner that inspires trust. If you have leaders that inspire trust, then it becomes easier to go through some of the challenges that culture has. Thank you.
Perfect. So thank you everybody who participated directly, indirectly, and then speakers, Engineer Ali, Dr. Hussam, Alex. So thank you very much. So I would like to say a final note that having a right people with the right mindset are really an asset to an organization. Okay, so even if there is some gap in the culture, the gap in the competencies, and the right people will make the difference. Okay, so identifying those right people, because sometimes in all these organizational politics and all, the right people who don't speak much because they are silent, they are really wants to be noticed, they don't talk too much, but it's the responsibility of senior leaders to identify the right people in the organization. So if you identify the right people and then give them appropriate authority to work and empower them to deliver the strategic transformation results and involve them in the whole transformation, that makes a big difference. And you have to take care of everybody, category A people, B people, C people. Okay, so you need to find out the critical mass, who my ex CEO calls the critical mass. So have a critical mass with you, and they make the things successful in any scenarios. So having said that, I would like to thank the Kuldeep, organizer of the meeting. I will be we are a very proud sponsor of this event, the Data Labs India. Our product is Fru Strategy, a comprehensive strategy management solution. I request you to have a look at it, everybody. And we continue the sessions. In the coming sessions, we talk about more about product management. In our coming webinar series, we talk about product management and how it is integrated to strategy. And we will have another one, which is the core finance, how the finance is influenced the strategy execution. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Hussam. Thank you, Engineer Ali. After all the heavy schedules, you kindly accepted our invite to join, and very insightful discussion. I really learned a lot. So
Yes.
thank you very much.
Thank,
And
thank you very
welcome.
much. Thank you very much, Dr. Assam. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Ali.
you.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Sheikh Saab, for organizing this session. Really fruitful. Please keep up the amazing work you're doing. It's
Thank you,
really
everyone. Have a
useful
great
for
evening.
us.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Have a good time. Thank you, Alex. Very
Thank
nice
you.
insights from you. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Good evening,
Thank you.
everyone.
Sorry if we were being heavy, but we tried our best to give you the most information that we can.
No, no. These are
Gopalji,
wisdom that
you are
are
very quiet.
music for our ears.
Would you like to share any thought, Gopalji, very quickly? Because I know you are expert into this as such.
No, thank you. I was just listening and enjoying the session. And full time, I was just focusing on learning from all these people. Believe me, it's mind blowing. And culture is the number one reason for failure in strategy execution. This is my experience, and I think this is also the research shows. So thank you. And I hope, because maybe 3 hours listening to so much of knowledge, I might have missed out something. So I request Sheikh Saab to share the recording of this session.
Yes, for sure.
I would
Definitely.
like to listen to it, believe me, at least 3 times.
Agreed.
Thanks.
Agreed.
By the
Likewise,
way,
Gopal sir. Likewise.
Gopal sir has released
Yeah.
a new book. Would you like to talk about that, Gopalji? Please feel free.
Yes, yes. Now, it was done in December. I launched my book, my first book. And this book is kind of a handbook which covers most of the frameworks, the complete process of strategy development, and then using the balance scorecard for strategy execution. Right? It has a number of appendices which includes samples of a strategy maps, balance scorecard for different industries. I think I have covered almost 12 different industries, and I have shown my work, what I have done with organizations in the Middle East. Most of the work I have done in Middle East, I was in Dubai and Qatar. I had my own management consulting practice. Never got a chance to come to Saudi, of course, but I worked in Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, and primarily I was based in Dubai. So I had assignments and I was traveling most of the time in the GCC countries. So it's based on my experience, not on some other book or not. It's not theory. It can help people who read this book to implement balance scorecard and strategy management framework, complete framework in their organization. At least it can be a reference book.
Fantastic.
For sure.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you,
So,
Gopalji. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you, Sheikh Saab.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Yes, thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend. Okay. So I wish you good luck and have a nice weekend, blessed weekend, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much for a wonderful session.